Welcome back to Two Brothers Comics. I'm Nick, and today we're going to talk about Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman joining Substack. Now, quite frankly, I do not think this is going to be a shock to anyone. If it is to you, well, I'm sorry to tell you, I just think everybody saw it kind of happening. We knew Kids Love Chains Press, or KLC Press, was Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman's new imprint, right? We weren't sure where it was going to go. We had a pretty solid idea it was going to be published through Image, because Kids Love Chains comes from Todd McFarlane. That's what they named the imprint after. We knew that was kind of going to be what happened. But as Substack has come on the scene, I think everybody just assumed Donny would be one of the next ones. We already have Zdarsky. We already have Hickman. We already have Tynan. Why would it not make sense to go ahead and bring Cates and Stegman over, especially when they're looking for somewhere to really hold that KLC press for them? So all that to say, they've announced several new books. Let's talk a little bit about what it means. They've done quite a few answers and questions, and they've also done a interview with Games Radar, so we'll talk about that a little bit and see if we can kind of make some sense out of all of this. Now, the first thing here is Donny Cates puts out the tweet that says, "I'm so very pleased to announce that Ryan Stegman and I are the very first comic book creators to join Substack Inc. to make you all a lot of rad comics under our new imprint, Kids Love Chains Press. Read more here and subscribe now for cool stuff." And then, of course, you have the big image here where it's KLC. That's the Vanish character. And then there's a long line of questions and answers being done. The biggest one is, will these books that they've announced be available for print? Yes, they are going to be printing these books, and probably through Image Comics, I believe was what was confirmed through Games Radar. So if you don't care for digital comics, but you still want to read these books at some point, just wait for them to be published through Image, and then you'll be fine and happy. Donny is not leaving Marvel, point blank. They will be available in collected trades and single issues. And then we'll click the link here and go ahead and go over to look at all of the comics they've announced. You see this new Substack, KLC Press, and then his title, Calm Down. So, hey, Donny Cates, blah, 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 blah. And then Ryan Stegman. Basically, we've covered this before, that Substack is basically a paid subscription feed newsletter, all of that good stuff, blah, 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 blah. It's going to keep going. You know, it's an introduction to all of them. And now they're going to be talking about the books that they've announced. Vanish, we already knew about that one, so here's some cool looks at that. And they've also announced two other titles, Donny Cates and Megan Hutchinson, which will be really cool. And that's going to be Flood, a 6-issue underwater horror western. That's pretty neat. So there's your first looks there. Didn't know anything about that yet at this point, I don't believe. And then the next one is going to be The One You Feed, a 6-issue miniseries from Donny Cates, Dylan Burnett, and John J. Hill. So that looks a lot like Something's Killing the Children. Just saying. But it does look really cool. We'll see what happens. Not a huge fan of, going from that really cool title artwork, and then this interior artwork looks a little different to me. I like the artwork here on Flood. That looks really cool. And then Vanish just looks like a really rad 90s comics. And one thing we know about Donny is that Donny does a good job about working on things that are just going to be cool. He doesn't generally put a lot of, I guess in his independent stuff he might, but in his Marvel and, stuff like that, he's just done a good job at trying to put some cool things onto a page, not really try to bring out the cringe. You know what I mean? Now, what is his Substack level? One thing I'll tell you about Donny is, in comics as a whole, man, I feel like we've lost a lot of professionalism, because it's just, it's like very title of your page is cussing. All throughout here is cussing. At one point, did we have to curse every 5 seconds to get our point across? But that's just me, maybe. But hey, so what's in it for you? Check it out, he says. So you have 8, 80, and 300. Great. For the monthly level, you're going to get the newsletter. You're going to get the digital copies of all of those. Monthly videos, hangs out, live streams, script creation, ranting and raving from Donny Cates. Okay, great. One thing I would say about Substack is you will have a little bit more access to the creators, I think, versus just waiting on the print. So if you want access to those creators and the digital comics, this is great. If you just really care about their work and not necessarily getting involved, talking to them, any of those things, then maybe this isn't for you. Now, at the annual level, you get everything in the monthly level plus a lottery ticket, Vanish #1 standard copy, so you do get some physical copies there, exclusive access to merchandise, and more exclusive perks. And then the GOAT annual level, the greatest of all time annual level, you get a standard cover B for physical copy, a Scotty Young exclusive variant for physical copy, and a Daniel Warren Johnson Substack exclusive, the When You Feed exclusive, as well as a Flood exclusive physical copies. So let's look at the exclusives if you're kind of very early into the subscription here. The first 1,000 subscribers on the annual level, and the first 1,000 subscribers to the GOAT annual level. So at the GOAT annual level, you'll get $300,000 is what he will have produced if 1,000 people subscribe at $300. That is amazing. That right there is so incredible. And I'm all for these creators getting, making their money. But think about that. If 1,000 people join at $300, $300,000. That's incredible. And then for the first 100 subscribers to the annual, 1,000 for the annual level, that is what, $80,000. So that's pretty cool. But you'll get some director's cuts exclusives, and then you'll get a founding member exclusive with Virgin Pencils variant. So a couple other things. And if you're first one of the 500 subscribers, you'll get a foil variant cover physical copy. So basically what they're doing is bringing a ton of physical copy exclusives to this, and that is another way they're bringing people over. And then, of course, these will all be signed if you are getting in on the incentive books. So there you have it. That is everything going on with the Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman Substack. Let's look at this interview with Games Radar. Basically, they just talk about everything that we covered, a lot of the same answers. He talks about the first Stegman's being his first creator-owned comics, the history behind KLC, a little bit more about Vanish, which we've talked about previously, and basically they've talked quite a bit about John J. Hill and how big of an impact they're going to have. John has done all of the letter designs, he does all of the lettering, and project management, so very interesting there. Now, there's been this whole hoorah about Substack offering. They've kind of come out and said we're very politically neutral and things like that. And so just because you don't disagree with one creator or another, we're not just going to kick everybody off. This is not Twitter or Facebook, basically. And so they pressed him on that a little bit. You see other creators, they're already donating to charity or quitting Twitter because of the hoopla behind all of this. So we'll see what happens. But there's a lot of money to be made here and a lot of good opportunity for these creators, and it's very interesting. And if we go to Rob Liefeld, he actually put up a tweet that said he's hearing, upwards of $600,000 or what some of these contracts have been offered or these grants have been offered. It's pretty interesting. So, guys, let me know what you think. Are you excited for this Donny Cates stuff? What are your thoughts overall as a Substack platform? I think I'm going to do a follow-up video to this one and see what you guys think and give some more of my thoughts, my opinions behind it, how long it'll last, things of that nature. But all in all, I think if you want a lot of access to your creators here, great. If you just want to wait for print, that's probably what I'm going to do. Guys, you're the best part of Two Brothers Comics, and as always, collect your way.